Mike Stevens and Puseletso Mbote were both ordinary kids growing up in their own worlds. That was until tragedy befell them. A split-second moment in their lives changed the course of their destiny forever.
Having a support structure and people around you who believe in you, who are willing to give you a chance, is critical to finding your feet, finding what makes you able to continue and to thrive. My name is Michael Stevens. I'm the director of Jumping Kids Prosthetic Fund. In 1992, I was involved in an accident. I was electrocuted by high-tension wires at a property at the Vaal Dam. The accident caused third-degree burns to approximately 70% of my body. The injuries were very significant around my legs. That resulted in my legs being amputated on the 4th day. My left leg was amputated above the knee. My right leg was amputated below the knee. I've been working in Jumping Kids now for 13 years. Our drive and philosophy is around making sure that the kids have access to mobility. So that involves getting them access to prosthetic equipment and making sure that they can maintain that equipment whilst they're in our systems. The reason we supply that and want them to be mobile is so that they can go to mainstream schools and gain a quality education. Finally, if we're going to be giving them prosthetics and specifically blades and things related to parasport, then we try and get them involved in parasports, whether that's athletics, basketball. We'll find a way to let them experience it and then develop their talent if they have any. That's to make sure that the kids have a holistic approach and that they have the best possible chance to be successful, contributing members of society. I grew up with my disability, so I had my accident when I was 12 years old and I had to take a lot of lessons. I was fortunate in a lot of the things that I had surrounding me, my support structures and the ability to go back to a mainstream school. I don't know that I took all of those lessons when they were happening. A lot of it comes later on in life when you realize the privilege that you've had in getting that education, in getting access to the equipment. That privilege came from working within the nonprofit and realizing that there were literally hundreds, if not thousands, of kids in South Africa who faced the issues I faced, but didn't have that structure, didn't have that support, didn't have the ability to get the prosthetics or the mobility equipment that would change their life. The decision to be involved and to essentially pay it forward, to make sure that kids who were in the situation I am in had the opportunity to live the kind of life and have the kind of opportunities that I did became really important to me. It really was kind of a calling at that point, something that was telling me that I was the person with the understanding, with the skills and the knowledge, who had studied to learn about all of these things in business, that I had all of the talent and skills to make a difference in somebody's life. That headspace then drove me to be involved and to commit to Jumping Kids, so that it wasn't just a hobby or something that I was trying to do to feel good, but something that I could literally use to leave a legacy and change the world. And hopefully make sure that kids that face the issues that I did have opportunities and can make their own success stories.
Having lived through his own tragedy of losing his legs at a young age, Mike found a deep purpose in creating a better life for kids in similar situations. This enabled him to create a blueprint for success. First, for getting them to become more active members of society again, and for them to experience athletic excellence via parasports. This led to him becoming a natural mentor for Puseletso and being a driving force behind his initial success.
I was 25 years old on the day of the accident. On the way to school, that's where we had the car accident. As we were turning into town, a truck just came in the side and bumped the side of the car. So yeah, that's how the accident occurred. The effects of the accident were that I got an amputation of my right leg. I had a operation done on my forehead because there was a piece of glass that was enlarged in my head. So that was some of the consequences that I had to face after the accident. As a child, you are at the best position of adaptation. I'm lucky that I had my accident at such a young age, because if I had it at an older age, I wouldn't have adapted so well to me not having a limb. So that really helped me in terms of coping with my circumstance. It was very challenging in those 2 to 3 years, and walking with one leg and crutches is not an easy task. So yeah, it was pretty challenging.
When I had my accident, there was obviously a lot to adjust to. Firstly, it was understanding that I had the accident and lost muscle and my legs, and that my life was going to be different. I spent probably a year in Baragwanath just having the initial surgeries done and getting skin back on my body. So that gave me a lot of time to think about what I was going to do and how I was going to approach it. Generally, my approach was that I was alive and that I was going to continue, and I was going to go back to my life and back to my school and just make everything happen again. Once I got to that stage where I was trying to go back to school, I realized that it was going to be much harder, that there were challenges in terms of mobility, in terms of being accepted in a wheelchair and different.
People around me pretty much accepted my circumstance quite a while after, actually, because I accepted it immediately when I found out that I had got amputated. I woke up in the hospital and I was like, oh, I don't have a leg. Cool. But everybody else took a little bit longer to adapt to this, and they treated me differently for a year or so, and then everything just went back to normal and was a normal thing now.
Being back at school and being around my friends, I knew that they still accepted me even though I was in a different body. And knowing that I had that support and the support of my family then helped me to accept my situation and look for what I could do and how I still wanted to be involved in the world. Before my accident, I was very involved in sports. I enjoyed taking part in everything, but was particularly successful in ball sports like cricket, football, tennis. After my accident, I was maybe naively assuming I was just going to get back into all of them and fit in just like I did before. Unfortunately, the reality of my disability meant that wasn't the case, but I was still very sporty and very active and wanted to be involved, and then started to look for new opportunities. When I learned about all the para sports that were available and started to see things like the Paralympics, I realized that there were much more opportunities for people with disabilities to get involved in sport. I also saw the benefits that I was gaining by being involved, both physically and mentally. So it became a motivator to do more and be involved in para sports in general. When I started with Jumping Kids, the primary goal was actually just to try and make a difference, and it was really focused around the mobility equipment because I knew how expensive prosthetics were. I knew how hard it was to find somebody who had your headspace and could do the work for you and understood what you wanted out of it. Once we did that, you start to obviously meet the kids and be involved in their lives. My understanding of how important education and sports were to my life started to become a developing factor, something like I wanted to have 3 pillars to Jumping Kids: the mobility, the education, and the sports. One of the kids that we met very early on was Ntando Mahlangu. Now, Ntando was born with a birth defect that impacted his legs and resulted in his legs being amputated through the knee. We went through that amputation with him. And one of the things we were discussing when we were discussing the whole amputation was, what do you want to do? And he wanted to run and play soccer. And with that, then that motivated us to go with blades as an option because it's not a typical option for kids, especially young kids. And it fundamentally changed his life and the way he was able to be mobile. It also showed me that this was potentially a better way to approach this kind of disability. Because he was showing so much development, we then got him involved in sports. So he started taking part in track and field, and his results were exponentially better than we ever expected. Within the first year, we realized that this kid that we were working with could quite easily go to the Paralympics within the next 2 years. So we sent him to international events, we got him qualification standards, and we put the results in that actually got him qualified for the Rio Olympics at 14 years old, where he went on to win a silver medal. And his results then were a catalyst for, well, if he can do it, we can do it for many more kids.
I first met Mike like 9 years ago. I was still 8 at the time. For me, I was quite young and energetic, so I was really active. The more active you are on your prosthetic, the faster you get used to it. So with me, it took me like a month or two to get used to my prosthetic. And the first few days to a week were the hardest, yes. But like everything after that was simple. Well, I wouldn't say simple, but like easier.
The blueprint that we follow is to get them mobile and then to see how they handle their equipment. If they are effective, we then try to get them involved in high activity sports and things that will get them busier and more active. Once we know that they have some level of talent, it's about getting involved in competition. So we have mass participation events that Jumping Kids puts on to get everybody involved. And then we plug into events, the Toyota National Athletics Championships, for instance. We would get the kids invited to that. They would take part in a race. We would then use that time as a way to get them invited to potentially an international event. That international event becomes important because those then have qualification criteria for Paralympics, and they can get a IPC number. And with that IPC number, they can get a ranking. And the ranking then lets them get chosen for the Paralympics. If they qualify, that then lets us use their success as a leverage point to get them into better schools. So we can approach top schools and say, we have a top para-athlete that we think deserves to be in the school.
The next checkup I had, I fitted my first blade. And then Johan was like, let's go to the track and let's see what you can do. And then he saw my potential. After that, I started growing my love for the sport.
I met Puseletso, I think, in 2015, 2016. He showed great potential. What we saw is that he was already trying to run and be a lot more active on that leg. So after about a year or two of that, we then supplied him with a prosthetic blade as well and started working on his athletic ability. That involved getting him to national athletics. And once we had that time in place, we invited him to an international event called IWAS, International Wheelchair and Amputee Sports. Their event was his next big qualification and test, and he came through it with flying colors. He broke the world record in his class.
When I went for my first international competition, which was IWAS, it was in Portugal, is when I realized that I can actually achieve this.
Generally, what we like to see is, the kids getting involved from the first fitment and being really excited about what the future holds. And that's what Puseletso showed us very early on. He really saw a big future for himself.
Mike has to deal with Jumping Kids, Ice Express, and he has to organize everything. Mike teaches me how to deal with everything. Management. He is like a mentor to me. There is no better person to be an example of perseverance.
When it comes to the kids, what I try to show them is what's possible and what I've achieved in my life just to, get to this point, but also to show them that they have the opportunity to do what I've done and much more. All it takes is access to the equipment and hard work. Running a non-profit organization is always a challenge, and one of the greatest challenges will be funding, because you are essentially asking people or corporates out of the goodness of their hearts to donate to something to try and change a life, with no real guarantees that you will do that other than what you tell them and your credibility and history. Having the kids able to succeed is key. Then shows funders that what you were telling them is viable and true. And that then gives them the confidence to give you additional funding for the kids and to find more talent. There are far more kids who require this type of assistance so that they are able to develop and live the lives that most of us take for granted. I believe that everything we need to solve the issues we have has already been created. We can do everything. The problem is the cost. The problem are the delivery systems that allow the fitment and the components to be fitted effectively and maintained when they need to be maintained. So that for me is the next evolution. That is how we as an organization can scale and make sure that there are many more Puseletsos, many more Ntandos, and many more kids who are an example of what's possible. With Puseletso, it was important for me to get him into a big mainstream school, because that then lets me plug him into everything the school has in place for that sport, and the coaching and the networks and the competitions, because that type of development often isn't available at disabled schools. So just by being in a facility like that, having access to those resources, it changes everything.
Being a KIS gives me the opportunity of a lifetime, because at primary school I didn't have all the opportunities and facilities. I am given an opportunity to show what I'm worth through the school. So I'm grateful to the school. I'm grateful to Mike for putting me into the school, and I'm grateful to everybody that is paying for my scholarship here at the school, because it's not easy and it's a privilege to be a KIS.
Then I again come in as the disabled specialist per se, and advise them on things that might be slightly different to what they were doing with their able-bodied kids, as well as providing them with access to the coaches that we have, so that if they want somebody else to be involved, they can have them and consult.
My ultimate goal in the sport is to become a world-known Paralympic athlete. I want, when people think of the para sport, to think of my name. I want to revolutionize the whole concept of para sports. People don't really look at para sport as a sport, but I want to change that. I want to show them what we as para athletes can do, and I want to show them what para sports can be.
Puseletso's defining characteristics, or some of the things that have helped him succeed and focus, is the fact that he's always been highly motivated and had an outlook that he can succeed. As much potential as he has to go on and be the next great Paralympian, there are no guarantees. So I'd like to see him developing in all spheres and understanding the importance of balance, so that he is a holistically developing, contributing member of society at the end of the day. I believe that he has the potential to go on in sport. I believe that he has the intelligence to do well in his education, and that he can do all of those things.
Mike is the one that sacrifices the most when it comes to all the athletes, training, organizing all their fixtures, organizing everything in terms of us competing and making sure that we are okay to compete. He's the one that makes sure that everything happens. He's the guy behind the scenes that makes everything possible.
Prosthetic technology has fundamentally changed in a lot of ways. The components that you can buy now, whether they are blades or carbon feet, bionic knees, arms, hands, etc., are really unbelievable. The difference they can make to amputees' lives are fundamental. They change everything. It used to be that everything had to look real, that you were trying to hide the issue and make a walking leg that looked like a walking leg. Today, I don't look at that at all. Today, we make tools. It's about, what do you want to do? You want to be mobile and active? Then this is a walking leg. Do you want to run and take part in sports? Here's a blade. We find that if we can give the kids access to the equipment and the maintenance and take the fears of the equipment and whether it will work or be painful and all of that away from the kids and from their parents, that it then comes down to their own mindset and how they see themselves and how capable they could be. That can be quite a challenging thing as well. We do have psychotherapists and people we can call on for it, but often it's really just about getting the kids involved in things in school, in sports, in life, and letting them get on with it and giving them a support structure so that they know that we believe and that they can. Not everybody is going to be a Paralympian, and that's okay. It's not about that. That's not the determining success in your life. If you can be capable and contributing and get on with things and, get a job, have a family and be happy in your life, then you are a success. And those are the type of things that I'm trying to explain to them so that they don't feel pressurized to be a Paralympian or to chase these elite type of goals. It's not always about being elite. It's about being capable and strong in yourself so that you know that you can do things. The future in parasport is bright in a lot of ways. There are new sports coming online. There are more people getting involved. But at the same time, we are going to face challenges. Challenges that come in parasport often revolve around classification, how athletes are classified into what class and how they compete, and whether there are enough athletes in that class to have Paralympic events, for instance. Definitely there are challenges in the future, but there are opportunities within the challenges, and we will do what we have done up to this point and adapt and find the best possible way to give kids more opportunities.
The major highlights in my athletics career right now, the first one is World Junior Championships in Switzerland, which happened in 2019, where I broke the 200-meter world record in the T63 category. Secondly is when I made the 100-meter final in the 2020 Paralympics. Me going to such a big event for the very first time is just nerve-wracking. Walking into that stadium, it was the first time I've walked into such a big stadium and compete in it. It was quite a surreal moment for me. I've already started training for the 2024 Paralympics. I know a lot of athletes that already started, like Ezra Frick from the United States. He's on a mission, and I can see that. I competed with him in the long jump, the Tokyo 2020 Paralympics. He's a really cool guy that I really hope to compete against, and preparations should start as quick as possible.
It's a real honor and a privilege to be involved in the kids' lives and to see them take their first step, gain confidence. Feels like a legacy. It feels like a lot of the things that I was told in my life that wouldn't be possible, I'm now sharing with so many more people and kids. Being able to share those opportunities is an absolute privilege in my life and brings me an immense joy. In terms of the future, we have to be able to deal with the issue on a much bigger level. To do that, what I think is required is a fabrication and training center where we can train people to do the work the way that we would and handle the kids the way we do and approach them with the scaffolding and tools that we do that we believe gives them the best opportunity of success. Additionally to that, you are then training prosthetic and mobility professionals who can deal with amputees and people with disabilities around the country and into Africa. I believe that there's an opportunity to answer the call, the Tumamina, the choose me, and say, okay, in this respect, I can fix the issues. I can develop a system and develop skills that make South Africa the leader in the field.
Though a tragic setback may change the course of your life, there is always light from darkness. The story of Mike and Puseletso is a heartwarming reminder of this and what is possible when you combine professional expertise with a genuine desire to make a difference. With Paris 2024 on the horizon, we wish Puseletso well in his quest for gold and constantly raising the bar of excellence. For more episodes of Mind and Field, Visit profmed.co.za. Mind and Field, brought to you by Profmed, the intelligent medical aid for professionals.